Hello everyone, and welcome back to more Final Fantasy VII. We are at part 13. In the last part, we leveled up a shit ton and also got some new enemy skills, and in this part, we're actually going to progress the story. So here we have the Turks, just kind of having a conversation, and I love this aspect of the Turks. So Rude here is talking about how he likes Tifa, and then Reno is just like, oh god, that's a tough one. But I love how they actually make an effort to make the Turks more than just these, you know, cool, mysterious villains. They actually make them people that they're just kind of doing their jobs. They don't actually hate Cloud in the gang. They're just doing their job because it's what Shinra told them to do. But anyways, we're going to get into a fight here. Reno is upset at them for what they did. Back in Sector 7, he got injured after their fight in Sector 7, but now we got a fight here, and because we got all those enemy skills and we're way over leveled, this fight is going to go pretty quick. I think it goes down in 2 Aqua Lungs, so I'm telling you, Aqua Lung, totally worth getting. It's a super good skill for this point in the game. So there's one. Let's see. Maybe it goes down in 2 Aqua Lungs and I think it's 1 more hit, and then that's it. Okay, well, there goes Reno. And then, yep, 1 more hit, and then that should be the end of Rude. Why is his name Rude? He's like the least rude of all of them. That's a bad joke. But funny thing about Rude, Tifa is actually in the battle, whenever you fight Rude, he will not attack Tifa. Unless she is the only one left, and even then he will hesitate to attack her. Yeah, because he likes Tifa. So if she's in the battle and Rude's fighting, he will not attack her unless he absolutely has to. And even then it'll be delayed. But yeah. Here I am, just kind of readjusting, or I guess looking over my materia. Oh yeah, there I am. I'm getting rid of Manipulate because I don't need it anymore. That's kind of going to be the last I'm going to use Manipulate in this game because pretty soon, well, not soon actually, it's not until Disc 2, but we're going to get some abilities that are going to overtake enemy skill. Enemy skill is really useful all through Disc 1. Disc 2, after we do the Chocobo side quest, we're going to get some really broken materia that are going to make the game way easier for us. Anyways, this enemy here, this is a frog, and it is actually possible in an area up ahead, in a forest area, to run into 6 frogs at once in a pincer attack. So they like surround you, and then they can just like keep hitting you, and if they hit you, you turn into a frog, and then you do way less damage and can't cast magic. And then they can, since there's so many of them, they can just keep doing that, so they can just turn you from a frog back and forth, and it's really fucking irritating. So I actually gave one of my party members there a white cape, which prevents them from being turned into a frog, just in case I got into that situation later. And also here, I love this enemy design. It's a fucking, like, Triceratops or something on wheels. It's like a tank. This thing's ridiculous. I love the enemy design in this game. Like, how the fuck did it? How does this even happen? Final Fantasy has always had really strong monsters, like monster designs. That's something Dragon Quest also has, is really strong monster designs, but for different reasons. Final Fantasy is much more like, they're much more over the top designs. They're usually kind of cool looking, if a bit goofy like that one. Dragon Quest, they're just really charming and silly, like the slimes and stuff. And they also always have really funny names. But yeah, now this is a blown up reactor in this area, and Scarlet's coming yeah. She's looking for some kind of materia here. But yeah, some big, large materia, as she puts it. Maybe that'll come into play later, but it's not here. But yeah, So we have to hide. And actually, where she was looking, there's actually another materia there. Yeah, what are the Shinra up to? They're looking for, well, where she was looking there's actually another materia, a summon materia for the Earth Elemental summon Titan, which is a pretty good summon. I don't use it that much. I don't use summons that much until really Disc 2, when you start getting like Neo Bahamut, stuff like that, like really powerful summons, and of course the ultimate summon, Knights of the Round, which that's just the win button. If you get Knights of the Round, you've won the game. For pretty much, you can nearly one-shot anything except like optional super bosses. And I think maybe the final boss would go down in 2 Knights of the Round turns instead of just 1. But I will try for this playthrough not to spam Knights of the Round. Sometimes I can't help myself. But whenever I get it, I will try not to spam it to actually show you what the boss fights are like and stuff. But just know, if you're struggling in this game, just take the extra time. You can follow this guide, excuse me, to do the Chocobo side quest. And if you do that, then you can get Knights of the Round. And then if you're struggling in this game, that'll take pretty much all the struggle out of it. Right, excuse me. This is just a giant-ass fucking praying mantis grasshopper thing. There it goes. But yeah. I believe this area is actually... I might be wrong. This area might actually be optional. I might be wrong about that, though. Like this area that I'm in, but you should go here anyway. You can get the Death Blow materia, and Death Blow is interesting because depending on your luck stat and also the attacks, your weapons like percent hit rate. So you'll see some weapons have like a hit rate of like 103% or something, which means it'll never miss, and then it also increases its chance of getting a critical hit. I think the max it can be is 255%, which guarantees a critical hit pretty much every turn. But Death Blow basically means the only hits you can do are critical hits, which also means it misses a fuck ton, because it doesn't like make it so you get a critical hit every time you use it, because you know that would be a little ridiculous. But still, if you're just looking for a critical, Death Blow can be really good to use. Also, if it's on a weapon that has that high hit percent, then if you use Death Blow, you'll be getting criticals almost every turn, so that's really good. But this town actually lost, like a bunch of people died when that reactor blew up, and so this town is actually kind of has this really tragic backstory here, because yeah, this reactor blew up and a bunch of the town just died in an instant, which is pretty dark. Clearly, you know, what the Shinra are doing is not good. I actually got right there a time materia, and time materia is really good. I will be doing this in a bit. If you pair the time materia with what we will be getting, materia we'll be getting next part, an added effect materia, that means your physical attacks have a chance of just stopping an enemy. Like they just stop. they just stop moving. But yeah, here I am deciding what weapons to get everyone, and I don't know why I'm doing this, honestly. This is kind of a waste of money, because in just the very next town we will be getting much better weapons for everyone, but it's fine. I got plenty of money from the grinding session in the last part, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, I'm still able to afford everything that I want, so it's not a big deal. And if I ever, you know, if you're ever hurting for money, just go back and you can grind there a bit more, you know, just grind anywhere. But really, honestly, I almost never am like struggling for money in this game. This game does a really good job of giving you enough money to buy everything that you want when you get to a new town, just by playing the game normally. For the most part, anyway. which I think is great. That's something that a lot of RPGs get wrong. They give you way, like, not enough money for what you're trying to do, and it's annoying. Dragon Quest kind of has that problem in the beginning parts. Dragon Quest XI I'm talking about specifically, where items are just very expensive, but thankfully in that game equipment it's still very important, but it's not as important as it is in some other RPGs. Final Fantasy equipment is definitely a much bigger deal in Final Fantasy games than it is in Dragon Quest. This game actually probably de-incentivizes equipment the most of all the Final Fantasies. Like in Final Fantasy IX, for example, equipment is everything in that game. That's how you learn abilities. That's how, like, that's really how you're going to be getting stronger, because levels don't mean a whole lot in Final Fantasy IX. It's all about the equipment. Final Fantasy VI is pretty similar. Levels don't really mean a whole lot. Like, just as an example, in this game, by end game, I'm typically in the mid 60s, early 70s for my levels. But in Final Fantasy VI and Final Fantasy IX, I am probably in more like the mid 40s at end game, because levels are just not as important. Or like Final Fantasy V, I'm in the early 40s usually for end game. But anyways, here we come to this house, and then these people are asking Cloud, because they see he has the soldier uniform, if he ever knew somebody named Zack. To which Cloud says no, but then he says this, Zack, I don't know anything about that man, but that name sounds familiar. And yeah, why? He doesn't have any memory of somebody named Zack, but the name sounds familiar, so why is that? But yeah, they're Zack's parents. They were looking for him for, they said he's been gone for years, and they don't know where he is or what happened to him. Which that's pretty tragic, but we don't know who he is. Maybe that'll come back later. I don't know. But anyways, we're just making our way to the next town, which is actually, we're going to get a lot of story for, just in general here, but especially for Red XIII, because this is Red XIII's hometown, Cosmo Canyon, which, if you remember, this is where he said, this is like where the journey ends for him. This is where he said, I will go with you as far as my home, and then I'm going to go back there and, you know, live out my life. So yeah, this is Red XIII's hometown of Cosmo Canyon that we're about to go to. But first we have to fight this giant robot, because, you know, that's priorities. But yeah, and we'll get a lot of story, we'll get a lot of lore for the world, and a lot of story for Red XIII in this town in the next 2 parts, so that's fun. I don't know. Oh yeah, I'm trying to get, because one of my characters is about to level up. Oh yeah, this part is required, of course, because the buggy breaks down here, so you have to go to this town to kind of keep progressing, because minor spoilers, but not really. The next town we are going to is Nibelheim, the town that got destroyed 5 years ago, Cloud's hometown. So that's going to be interesting. But we got to get through Cosmo Canyon first. And I thought this guy had something better, but apparently he just has a phoenix down to steal. Oh well. But yeah, I'm doing this just to kind of get, because I think one of my party members was very close to a level, so I'm just kind of doing it to get them that level. But there we go. And now we are heading into Cosmo Canyon. Let's see, yeah, Yuffie. No, Cloud, sorry. Cloud is now level 30. Awesome. Yeah. We're just making our way along. We're actually going at a really good pace. Usually I am over 10 hours. Like, if I'm playing the original PS1 version, I'm usually like over 10 hours into the game at this point. We're not even there yet. So we're making good pace. Yeah, I'm 8.5 hours, so I guess I'm playing it a bit faster to keep the commentary moving along. Of course, if I'm playing more recent releases, then, you know, I'm using the speed up feature more, so it's probably more like 7 hours or something. But I actually recommend for your first playthrough, try not to use the speed up feature for anything but like grinding or something, because playing the game, like, you know, play the game how it's meant to be played. Or if you want to just speed through like the 50th time you're seeing a summon animation, and I totally get that. But now we're at this huge town, Cosmo Canyon, and Red XIII just referred to himself as Nanaki, which is weird. Nanaki, I don't know, which is weird, but I guess that's his real name. I mean, he said he doesn't really care what we called him, so we just called him Red XIII, but his real name is Nanaki, and now we are going into Cosmo Canyon, which is this big town where people come to research about the world and all that stuff. And Barrett said he always wanted to see this place for some reason, but we'll get into why later. I also love the music here a lot. I think this is one of the best town themes in the game. But first we're going to stay at the inn. And the rest of this part is just going to be story. We aren't getting into any other battles in this part. So, you know, buckle up. But yeah. First, my desk just creaked. Okay. But first, we need to explore the town. We're going to go to the shops, get some new weapons, some new materia, all that stuff. It's just going to be a great old time. But yeah, this is probably the Final Fantasy, as I was talking about, that kind of incentivizes levels more than equipment, because usually in Final Fantasy games it's the opposite. Levels usually aren't quite as important. Levels are always important, you know, they increase your stats and stuff, except if you're playing Final Fantasy V, where all it does is increase your max HP. But here, levels are definitely more important than they are in others. I think it's done to make it a little more accessible, because like Final Fantasy VI had so many equipment slots and then relics and then all that stuff. And this game only has 3 equipment slots, which definitely makes it better. And also, I think it's done to kind of push forward the materia system, because if there were materia slots on like 5 equipment slots, god, that would be a fucking nightmare. So I totally get why it is the way that it is, and honestly, I almost prefer it, because the materia system still offers a bunch of strategy, but then you aren't having to scroll through like a million things of equipment to figure out what you want to put on everyone. It tones down menuing quite a bit, unless you're an indecisive fuck like me and can't figure out what materia you want on what person, but that's just me. Definitely, the other Final Fantasies, you're going to be in the menu a lot more adjusting equipment, because in other Final Fantasies there's also elemental equipment and stuff, and yeah, in Final Fantasy IX that's how you learn abilities, which in this game abilities aren't learned, they're just the items that you equip onto them with the materia, which, like I said, I love that system a lot. Anyways, we're going to get some nice weapons for some pretty big buffs and stats for these weapons, for these characters. And also, I bought that for Red XIII, even though I haven't been using Red XIII, because he's going to be required here to use next part. So, I'm just thinking ahead a bit there. Here I am moving time up to the weapon, because we will be getting added effect next part, and like I said, that's kind of, you know, I want time added effect on Cloud, because Cloud's going to be, he's our best physical attacker, so he's going to be the one that's using physical attacks the most, so therefore he has the best chance of consistently, you know, stopping enemies the most. Stop even works on some bosses, so this is really good. It's a good way, it's essentially casting stop sometimes without using MP, so really good. Also, if you combine like a poison materia with added effect, you'll get, it'll poison the enemy, and there's a million different other things that can happen. This system is it's expansive. There's a lot here, and it's also, you know, it's fairly complicated, which, like I said, if it would be just completely unmanageable if you had like 5 equipment slots like you do in Final Fantasy VI or something. So I'm glad it's not like that. But yeah, we're just kind of making our way through the town. We're going to be going up to the top, but first, this slot here is where the materia store is, and we're actually going to be getting some major purple materia now. Remember, earlier in the commentary I said that purple materia increases your stats, and what we're getting here is actually HP plus and MP plus materia, which do exactly what you think they do. They increase your HP and MP, and I'm buying one of each for each party member, and that wasted most of my gil, but because I made so much extra by grinding, it's not a huge deal. And also, these become really good because if you level them up, so it starts out only 10% plus HP, which is a good amount, but not, you know, super substantial. And I'm leaving that slot open there for the added effect materia, so I'm just thinking ahead a bit. And I'm gonna get rid of the steel materia finally because I'm not using it that much. But as you level it up, so it starts out at 10% plus HP and MP, but then you level it up, it gets to 20%. You level it up again, it gets to 30% up. You level it up again, 40%, and then if you max it out and master it, you get 50% plus HP, and you get another one that's plus 10%. So, and these things level up fairly quickly, so by end game, if you use these, like if you're having the HP and MP plus materials equipped, you can very easily end the game with a max HP and MP for your entire party, which I'm going to be attempting to do here. It might not happen, but even still, you'll end up with an absurd amount of HP and MP, more than you would ever need, but that's part of the fun of RPGs, is just completely overpowering your party. But anyways, this is Bugenhagen, which I love that name, but this is Nanaki's, or Red XIII's grandfather, and as he was saying here, Nanaki is 48, but in his like species, that's the equivalent of just a teenager. He's still a kid, and now he's talking about how the planet's dying, and these are the cries of the planet here. I also love the line, "Looking up too much makes you lose perspective." I think that's great, but anyways, these are the cries of the planet. Bugenhagen's gonna Bugenhagen. He's talking about how the planet is oh, excuse me. The planet is dying. And now we're gonna get kind of an explanation finally as to just how this planet works, because this is, you know, a fantasy world, so the planet kind of works differently than it does in, you know, Earth. And I believe the planet, they never give the planet a name in Final Fantasy VII, but I believe the planet is called Gaia, which is actually the same name of the planet in Final Fantasy IX. But yeah, so we're going to get our party back together and get everybody well equipped, and then we're going to go back up there and have Bugenhagen explain just how this planet works, and what exactly Mako energy is. They've kind of explained it already, but we're going to get a much better explanation here as to just what it is and how it works, which is, I think, is one of the most fascinating parts of this game. I love the idea, well, you'll see, I love how the planet works in Final Fantasy VII a lot. I think it's really, really neat. And now since we got some better equipment, we got some more materia slots for everyone, so that's just great. So now we can put their HP plus and MP plus on them. And I believe here, I'm finally going to say goodbye to the Choco and Mog materia, because I haven't really used it. Like I said, summons I don't really use until Disc 2 when you get some really good ones. Mainly because the animations are just so long, and like the damage wise, I can do more with something like Aqualung or something like that. So, but yeah, now we're going along. We got everybody equipped, all that stuff, so that's just dandy. And now we're gonna keep going and talk to Bugenhagen again. And God, I love saying Bugenhagen. What a great name. Also, he doesn't have legs. He kind of just floats. Like, if you look at him, he just kind of flies around. I don't really know what he's supposed to be. I don't know how he's related to Red 13, because, like, they look nothing alike. Who did he fuck to get Red 13 to look like that? Anyways. let's just... I don't like to think about that. But yeah, I've always loved this part too, a lot. Excuse me. But, yeah, he has this lab that's just kind of this representation of the solar system. For some reason, this is a fantasy world, but all the other planets are the same. So, like, there's still Jupiter, Saturn, all that stuff. But, you know, just there's no Earth. Instead, it's Gaia, or the planet. Like I said, they never give it a name. God, excuse me. In Final Fantasy VII itself. But yeah. Once again, this is kind of just, you know, they're using the in-game character models with these FMVs. That's so impressive. And it's like not done a lot, because it really makes it feel like it's actually in the game itself, the FMVs, when it's not. The game isn't rendering it at all, but it's just super impressive that they accomplished, you know, this kind of graphical power on the original PlayStation. Of course, I know it looks dated, but just on a technical level, it's very impressive what they accomplished here. But basically what he's talking about here is how life is born from the planet and dies, it goes back into the planet, just as their souls do. Their souls are born from the planet and die and go back to the planet. And that's what the life stream is called. It's made of spirit energy from people's souls. So that spirit energy gets collected together and flows throughout the planet, which is the life stream, also known as Mako energy, which is what the Shinra is harvesting. So yeah, the life stream is what gives people life. When they are born, they come from the life stream, and then when they die, they go back to the life stream. And I love this. I love this approach to this kind of look at life so much, where it's like a death is not a loss. It's more just it goes back to where it came from. But the life stream and spirit energy is what is not only what makes life happen, it's what makes the planet be able to be a planet. The planet in this game is just as alive as any life form on it. So without the life stream, the planet dies. So which is why Shinra is killing the planet by sucking up all the Mako energy, because they're getting rid of the planet's life stream. It's essentially its blood. I also love that, like, the planet is just as much an entity in this game as anything else, and I think that's a really cool idea. And then he says here, the reason Mako energy is so powerful is because it exists within nature. So what the Shinra is doing, they can't ever harvest the true power of Mako energy because they're using it for artificial purposes. Which I think is also a very interesting idea. I love the way the planet works in this game. I think it's great. It's very cool, and it does a lot of interesting things with that idea from here on out. Now that we know just exactly how the planet works here, and it's great. But anyways, we will actually be continuing on with our adventures in Cosmo Canyon in the next part. This is going to be about it for this part. So, yeah, next part we will continue on. We will see more about Red 13 and what's going on with him. All that stuff. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching. And I will see you next time for part 14 with more Final Fantasy VII.